there are things which are going to move on to online social, which were hard to pull off earlier. And I think that is going to accelerate. But there are things which will, that, we are social animals. We need that wine and cheese events to happen, which we all miss. I would see a lot of outdoor activities and outdoor post-COVID, marketing initiatives coming up. And, I look forward to those days.
Hello everyone, welcome to CMOTV.live, a production of Accent Infomedia, a sister concern of enterprise IT world. As you know, this is being watched by worldwide audience who are into marketing. Today we are having a special guest from the services industry. His name is Samir. He is the CMO of L&T Technology Services. Samir has been be the company driving force behind the growth of the organization on different verticals and different markets. In his illustrious career, he has worked in various organizations, including HCL America, Europe, as VP and head marketing. Before that, he was working with Satyam as a VP Global Marketing and Communications. He's an alumni of IIT Mumbai. uh, in his past 20 years career, he has received many accolades for his hard work and innovative thinking. The last one, the one he has received is Enterprise IT World Global CMO Leadership Awards 2020. Samir, a warm welcome to you to CMOTV.live.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you for getting me over here, and thanks for recognizing all the hard work which my team has done, and I am getting that recognition from Enterprise IT.
That is the characteristic of a true leader. When the good things happen, the credit goes to the team. When the outage happen, the leader says, I am taking responsible for that." So thank you
Absolutely.
for, yeah, thank you for pointing out and showing a great character here. Samir, the situation, the world, the entire world is suffering from a peculiar kind of phenomena. A pandemic is on the earth. It is showing no sign of moving back, going away from this. So what is the kind of overall market sentiment you are observing?
So, uh, you know, I'm sure it's true across the world. The world, if I call, is a yo-yo. It's a crazy times, and I think so. It's once in 100 years, and I have thought that I've seen everything. From the dot-com burst and the financial crisis, but I think this is very, very different. And I will not go into the COVID part of it, but I think so. From an economy perspective, right? It is the haves and the have-nots. I can say the haves are people, who are basically in the service economy, right? So you look at the banking systems or the IT players, are the people, who can easily work on from home, work on Zoom and or whatever platform and have the flexibility to work. So that evolution has taken place. But there are the have-nots part of it, and you can look at people who work in the hotel industry or hospitality industry, where there is a human interaction to be done, or a cinema and stuff like that. And I think so. That is the great dichotomy. So people who are in the have world, for them, one, they have been safe. The business is doing extremely well. The business has evolved into the next level and thing, and things are going great. And the other side of it is the have-nots. And for them it's a nightmare. I won't say it's about making their bread, but they don't know where the future is and when this will end. So I think so. When I started off in my journey and people talked about, it's going to be from a product economy to a services economy, I think so. It is the time of the services economy, and that is taking leaps and bounces. So I think it is a tale of two cities, of two sides, the coins of two sides. It's how you look at it, and what's possible. The good part is there are a whole number of people who are fortunate enough, who have work and can thrive in this time and are able to give a helping hand for people who cannot.
All right, Samir, if you look at the entire situation, it changed now. The pandemic has brought in a new world order completely. We had never seen, never thought the way the content is being consumed, and the marketers are putting their brains into innovating, working from home. You know, everything is from home. I'll say. Your education from home, health is from home, buying is from home, food is from home. I mean, even you are not going anywhere for any damn essential things except doctors coming to you. So in that situation, marketing is very important, because as initially you were discussing, you were telling me that it's a very challenging phase for these sales guys, sales leaders, to create a bond or create that connect with the customers. So from an innovation point of view, from a looking at the market, how the marketeers are reacting to it.
Yeah, so Sanjay, there's no playbook for this, and we have gone through stages now. It's like 6, 7 months, when this happened, and for us, we are an engineering services company,
Mhm.
while in the US, I tend to work on and off from home and from my workplace. But if you look at most of my design centers, we have huge amount of investments and labs, and people tend to work from office. So
Mhm.
there it has been pretty challenging, and what I will cause is the first phase where it was, how do you get everybody to safety and make them work from home? So,
Mhm.
we had to innovate it, relook at our business model. So we created something, lab as a service from home. So we had equipment being moved with security and stuff like in customers' home, workstations, and large testing devices available. And you must understand, contextually, it's very, very hard, and especially places like developing countries where, we have joint families staying. So, that was the first phase where it was about safety. Very quickly, we moved from there, and, client is not used to, most of the clients are used to working only from offices. So we were able to then transfer some of our, what we call as best practices in terms of how do you work remotely and how do you do design, development, product remotely. So shifting from being impacted to becoming into a thought leader and helping your client was the, I would say, step one. And the next level was, how to get into higher productivity. And all this whole scheme thing, it is all about being empathetic towards your employees. Earlier it was a no when you heard a noise or somebody. Now it's okay. If my wife or the kids walk around and come around. So the intermingling of uh, so bottom line is, whatever we do it with empathy. And this is the time for marketing to step up. First of all, it was about communication, clarity of thoughts to your workforce. Then you taking the best practices and communicating and sharing it with your customers. We did simple things. My CEO has, on his Rolodex top 15, 20 CEO. So what we did is we created a simple Teams call, and we call it, I call it CXO exchange, an X and
Mhm.
exchange. And it was
Yeah.
just, we called people from different industry, everybody going through different sets of challenge,
Mm.
and a 60-minute call. And, they would just come and share. And we said, there is no recording, there is no social media about it. It is an opportunity where we can exchange ideas in terms of how you're dealing with it. And, and we had the haves and have nots in that, depending on which industry, and providing that opportunity for people to exchange, how they were managing to keep their factory safe and what they were doing to evolve. And providing those platforms is what brings that intimacy and knowledge sharing, because we work in multiple sectors providing those things. I think being genuine and authentic is the critical things, and providing, so it does, you can do that. It doesn't need any money. It's about the thought is what is required.
All
I
right.
hope
Can
that
you?
that gives you some idea of what we have been doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you can take me through your journey for last 6 months, your production sites are in many places, geographically dispersed locations. You are connected with people, your people with your board and other people from different locations. how did you manage? What are the practices that you developed, which can be a learning phase for your peers or the budding CMOs who are about to fill in your shoes in different industries?
I would say, necessity is the what makes you, thrive, when, at a place where, you're told that, you need to conserve cash, you need to be safe. And then, how do you, and people tend to innovate. So, the basic, what we call is a jugaad mentality.
Mhm.
But, you need, see, we are in engineering and we are doing research and development and product design development. Safety is very, very important. We had a Japanese client, which we work on, 2024 models of their cars. Obviously you can't let that material shift from a protected design center into somebody's home to design it and somebody can take a picture. We don't even allow cell phones over there. So how do you evolve that model? Now, we didn't work for that client. So that was one unique, we couldn't do work for almost 2 months, but now we have found out different new protocols, how to make sensitive work, so few people come to the office and work in my design center, whether it's in Israel or in India or in the US. But the other part of that data in terms of design works in the workstations can be done, which is not sensitive enough, which is finite element designing and things like that. So looking at that problem, how do you solve it? And then taking that, propagating that message to the customer. Yes, there are new ways to do new development way, and that providing your sales guys that opportunity to carry that message. So that is one part of it. Second is, very quickly within 2 weeks, we realized that, our pipeline, what we had dried out.
Mhm.
So customers won't buy what you traditionally sell. The buying pattern had totally changed.
Mhm.
We got with our, delivery heads, business head, and looked at what is that they will be looking at right now to buy. There were issues in supply chain disruptions. There were issues in manufacturing safety, virtual manufacturing. So what were probably, selling 2-3% of our services, we believe that those are the ones which are going to sell. So making sure that, we did enough packaging and positioning of them on our home site, website, we brought them upfront. There was this era of, what I call is the webinar booms, which happened. And, now it's gone to a saturation. Nobody wants, and nobody wants to get on to.
Right.
So we leverage those to enable our sales to go through the journey which the customer was going, and we were feeling those together. So it was very natural for us. The whole intent was to stay ahead of what probably competition was doing. And second is always look at what somebody else from different industries doing.
Okay.
And what I must say is that for a marketer, I think it's very, very important. It's once in a lifetime opportunity for you when the sales has no goddamn clue what to do. Sales guys are used to being on the roads and driving and flying and whining and and entertaining customers and having those interactions. Today they are stuck at home and they're not, so they have so much time on hand. And if you are able to help them, I think the marketing is able to make a big difference. So what I have found is my team is able to now make sales guys think in a different way. And that change management which is required and that appreciation of what I call is on the pyramid of top of the pyramid, if on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest, if I was on a scale of maturity of acceptable level of 6, I was able to move that two notches up. And being a true partner of the sales guys to look at it, how do you interact with your stakeholder or the buyers in a different way.
So in this sense, do you think that the marketers are becoming new kind of sales leaders, assuming that for temporary period of time, because I see the sales are happening through the marketing initiatives. Everyone, in fact, is assuming that and thinking the lines that I'm thinking.
I won't say that, see, and marketing has, different functions in it. And, a marketer can easily be a sales guy if he wants to be, and that seems a lot of marketers tend to take that as a logical. But there are people who don't like, they don't like to have a quota in terms of, I need to, that pressure of living with a sword hanging of a number to be delivered on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis. I think so. Marketers are far more deep centric thinkers, like to think of doing things which takes little more longer time, but make transformational changes in the way you approach it. What I would say is that we have been able to, most of the marketers I have seen in my team are able to, which they, they would always say, that, the sales guys need to listen to them, and why do they sell in a certain way. They're able to get sales guys to embrace a lot of those ideas and now get into the implementation mode. And I think that respect of, where sales always tends to, think, wow, any department, whether it is delivery or I think we are the kings and we know it. And I think that appreciation by the sales guys for marketing departments has gone up way, way higher.
Okay. Samir, if you observe that the marketers these days are utilizing a lot of technology, including AI, ML, your bot services, analytics, and targeted marketing, actually, for target customer marketing, and at times they overstay. So the way you mentioned that the boom in webinar, and there is fatigue also. We are now in the phase of webinar fatigue. Nobody intend to sit in the webinar except very important ones. So how do you see this technology being used? Of course, bot services are useful for minimizing that error, anywhere at the front, at the back end. Of course, you are not you don't take care of the technology part, so it's not a big thing. It's not a real question for you. But as a marketer, you're also consuming data. You're also trying to collate the data, what the customer is saying, what the pipeline is saying, right? So what do you see in that, in the play of the technology, where as an experienced marketeer, where the boundaries should be drawn in terms of utilizing these technologies so that they don't overdo the things?
Sure. I have two views to it, and I look at the Gartner's hype cycle, which is there, and we are we design products for customers where we use AI, ML, and
absolutely
technologies, and which is absolutely apt and to be done. And when I hear a lot of marketing guys, talking, we all have been talking about automation for last maybe 10, 15, 20 years since I've started marketing. And the AI part of it, if you look at new age companies, which are, whether it's a startup or, you look at Ubers of the world or the Facebooks of the world, they're, most of the journey is digital, and can track the whole life cycle depending on if it is omni-channel, whether it's retail. So you have multi-channels and stuff like that. I think the connecting of the dots and the science and the art comes together. For an organization like us, which is which sells basically to R&D heads, VP engineering, it is still traditional selling, and I would say it is still back to the basics. What I would say is that it's the hype cycle where everybody seems to be hyping and talking about it. But I will give you examples where we tend to use it. So place where we tend to use it is basically market intelligence. So it's not a product which we have developed, but I'm a consumer of a particular product which helps look at my buyer, and it makes it into 16 or 18 personas, and then is able to track and give me insights in anything which is happening in the organizations. So it basically gives you signals so that you're able to make logical. Now, is that the accuracy 100%? Absolutely not. But it is probably in the range of 80, 85. There's so much of data which is there, which is then brought into simple. If we think that AI is going to solve our problem, absolutely not. I think so. The ability of a marketer to be deep thinking, looking at the dots and making those connections is going to come for it. Yes, we have a lot more data, more patterns coming in, but it is for smart marketers to analyze that and quickly make a hypothesis about it, test and try and see if you are successful or fail very, very quickly, and then reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
And not to forget the basics.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. The basics is the relationship that we go meet, and as per your commitment or relationship, you act upon. The other thing what we are observing, that social media has become very, very active. I mean, people are investing bot services in social media to automate the things, which used to be the personalized one. And the genesis, if you look at the social media, it was used for the consumer products. Now B2B guys are using it, engineering guys are using it, the social media to social broadcast things or listen to the customers. So what is your take on this usage of social media? How personally are you into social media that much
Absolutely.
from the corporate point of view? Of course, personally must be using.
Correct. So I think so. Social media is a great equalizer, if I'll say anything which is. So, I am a company which is 700 millions in revenue. Okay.
Mhm, mhm,
But when I use the simple principles of being, creating communities, I can create that on social media.
mm,
So I'll give you an example of LinkedIn.
mhm.
Uh, Today, I have 1.7 million followers on LinkedIn.
Oh,
And why is so? And I'll give you some frame of reference. 700 million, 1.7 million. HCL Technology is 10 billion in revenue. They
mm,
have 1 million. Reliance Industry has 1.7 million followers. Now, why is that a company which is 700 million has the same level of followers on this thing? It is because we have enriched and worked on community over it. And why is that? There are three words as a philosophy which we believe, which is basically engineering the change.
mhm,
Uh, our passion for engineering and technology, and purely what we are. So being authentic about it, and sharing the pain, happiness, and the journey as an engineer, which we feel, and keeping that essence as authentic, and having the dialogue in that social media community. And that is what is propelling it. If you're asking, all of that is, I would say 99.6% of it is organic, and the point purpose is because I run some campaigns which are paid towards selling my services.
mhm.
99% plus are people who are engineers from colleges, different countries, my VP engineering, and they are coming. So when you are able to bring those, keep that principle in place, and it's not about on social media just propagating, okay, I am going to be at this event and come and join me, and use that as a broadcast house of what you do, I think you get into a trouble. But if you're authentic about the topics you talk about. So a lot of the things which is talked on our LinkedIn channel is about those technology and issues. It's not, we talk about what we do, but that is less than 20%, but 80% is about what's happening out in the world. And that's what create that community. And that's one of the reasons we were rated one of the top 10 showcase LinkedIn pages out of India, and that's a great equalizer. What is the investment over there? you know, three people working full time, looking at those messages, looking at that message, engaging with the audience. If you ask me, have I used a lot of automated tools on it? Yes, we get analytics from LinkedIn, which is part of the tools, but in the end, it is the human which is making that difference happen.
All right, there is one question would certainly like to ask you, which is not there in the questionnaire, is that because I remembered speaking to a couple of people, one side a CIO, who is a good friend of mine, also very recently the CMO of Zebra Technologies. I mean, why I'm taking the name, he said that my job, he's a global CMO by the way from California, I
Correct.
believe. So the other day he told me that it's a thankless job as a marketeer. The other side, when I speak to the CIO, he says, even though I'm sitting in the board, but I'm not able to make my folks understand what I am thinking, what is there in my brain. So that is the biggest challenge. I mean, same thing was resonating with this person, this his, Jeff of Zebra Technologies, saying that okay, my job is that also. So I got a little bit confused. Then whose job is that? Whose job is not thankless? Is it the only CEO or CFO or the who else? We cannot ask this question to the board.
Uh, so, I think so. The problem becomes is, because you're looking for a frame of reference for somebody else to endorse you. And I think that's where the problem comes. Is if you're going to put, say, okay, I want somebody else to judge me how I am. I think if you judge yourself for what you do, if you believe that you are here to make change, you're here to transform, and you cannot make everybody change. So, like my job is that I'm at point A, I want to take the company to point B. For me to take to A to B, I need to make some shifts and change. If I can make, you have to look that as your market, you have to look at those people and how can I make those convert? There will be people who will immediately come onto your idea or onto your program or onto your agenda. There'll be guys who are what we call as the fence sitters. And there'll be guys who are basically followers will follow the others. The guys who are sitting on the fences are one who you need to convert. And so far as you're able to give clarity of why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and you're able to make that jump, that I think that happens. And I keep telling my team is that, we have to stand for ourselves. We do not let sales judge us. We do not let the CEO, because my CEO only looks at the final metrics. Did I sell? What's the revenue? Things like that. He doesn't understand what goes behind because the metrics he looks is very, very different. As a marketer, I look at very, very different, but they need to align as a business. And I need to understand my job is to make, I have to look at 360. I have to look at employee satisfaction. I have to also look at as, are we making profits? Am I being an authentic company outside? But most importantly, am I a true partner, an engineering partner for my customers? And how do they see it? So evaluating that, and you as a smart marketers and a leader, you're not able to judge it for yourself, and you're wanting somebody else to do that for you. I think so. I think you're putting it out there. I think that's where the gap I see. Yes, it is frustrating at times. There are agendas which you want to do and people don't get the line. So, but it's like a butterfly. If you set it free and it comes back, it's yours. So just do your part and keep moving the agenda. I have been fortunate enough that the CX or my peers or in the company, we have gone through, because I joined about pre-IPO and I've been able to transform the company, and that appreciation, and challenges, I tell them that, we are like the SWAT. You are the army, we are the SWAT force. Don't expect us to fight the war, but, we can go and fight those little wars and stealth battles which we can win for you. But if you ask me daily basis, work on this proposal and make those happen, I think so you will lose the battle. So it's about painting the right context, leveraging marketing, all about focus and putting those energies over there. And I don't want to be in a popularity contest. There are enough people in the company who says that, the Samir and marketing teams don't help us. And I said that, yes, our job is to, as a custodian of marketing budget, my job is to make sure to put effort where it will get the best bang from its money for the company. And it may not be the top revenue generator. There may be places where I'm going in an emerging market, I have zero revenue. And that's where my focus is. I need to help over there. So it is about choosing those battles and then laying that context. And I think one needs to be passionate about telling that story to internally. If you cannot tell that to the stakeholders, and I think that's where, sometimes when, obviously we are all human beings, there are days where I am frustrated and stuff like that. But I think so mentally, if you're clear that you're not going to put yourself out there for somebody else to judge, but if you can keep your own high standards and manage that, I think that's pretty good.
You said that storytelling. That's marketers are actually the storytellers. Your narrative is right, then it takes off, in a V space. If not, then it almost goes like L. So absolutely. Okay. In terms of your budgeting, when you said that people are saying that the dollar spend, what used to happen pre-COVID, now it's of course natural. It has shrunk. The contraction has happened. The board is saying that you please do with do more with the less. So are you also facing that kind of thing?
Yes, so and our organization is no different, and typically, first mode is, how can we control? And, I have gone through multiple cycles over the years and worked in different organizations. And I have come to realization, dollars and money is important. You need to have the firepower and the muscle at the back end. But if you really look at, from a marketing, and any marketer puts his hand onto heart, almost 40 to 50% of the effort wasted. It gets wasted or is not impactful, if I may say. It doesn't move the needle if in any program, any year, whether you look at large companies like IBM's, Capgemini's to mid-size, and it's across the spectrum. You can use the best of, I believe, more than the dollar amount, I think so. It's about the idea. If you have a great idea, how unique is that idea and how you implement it is the true what I call as realizes in terms of the success and impact it makes. A lot of the times, we are running campaigns and programs which are pretty much me too, and slightly differentiated. But if you can do the same delivery mechanism in a different way and in a unique way, I think which can make transformational and big impact. I'll give you a example. Earlier last year, the business problem was that awareness in Europe of L&T technology was low. The European clients tend to visit my centers out of India much lesser. So they don't see our true capabilities. All the capability they see is what is on PowerPoint. And the pipeline was weak. Those are the basic business problem happen. And, typical marketer will say, okay, yes, let's run a campaign, let's do a few events and do that. My team came up with an idea saying that, eventually it's about, we can't take them to our labs. Can we bring our labs to them? And that's where the idea. And then finally, what it bottled down was that we ran a 360-degree program over 3-4 weeks, where we basically had a bus which was basically innovation on wheels, which had all technology, and we went from client to client, city to city, over 9 countries, and for micro events. So we covered the analysts, we covered the influence body, we got prospects, we got embassies involved. So it served a multi-purpose. What would have taken us probably 3 years to do, that journey we were able to cover in that 4. And it didn't cost us a much, it was just that idea which was there, and then the seamless execution, and then getting the whole organization around it. Now learnings, and if I was to do it again, will I do it in a different way? Absolutely. But those ideas which are more important than the dollar you spend. And I think that, that made, every CEO in the engineering and R&D company stand up and say, can you find out about L&T Technology Services? And the amount of my peers who call me up and say, hey, Samir, what the heck are you guys doing? Can you tell me more? I just got a call. And, and that is the accolade you look for. I don't look at what my sales are. Of course, we had 230 meetings which were done. We created a pipeline of about 150 million pounds and so on. So, and the impact was, out,
No, that's good. I mean, as you said that, ideas actually make money, idea actually sells. That is absolutely true. But then on ground, you require also a dollar. I mean, my question.
Absolutely. It means you need to have threshold amount of money. But, if you look at, the amount of money what I spent this quarter, I had momentum, but so I could always dial it down because that's the need of the hour for me, I would want, 4 of my engineers or 8 of my engineers working overboard, and that's where the cash is to be preserved. And there are places where I am going aggressive in spending, and then somebody, oh my God, this guy is spending so much money over there at the time of COVID, but they don't realize, see what I'm not spending. So,
So you have kind of created a balance between.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to pick and choose. It's all about focus and reprioritizing. People don't see that there are no more events happening. So that money is not being spent as every organization is saving money over there.
All right. So, how do you visualize? How do you see the post-COVID scenario? And I mean, what is the kind of timeline? Of course, we cannot actually sense or make a gauge of exactly what's happening. But from your perspective, looking at the way you are heading, maybe COVID is kind of a perception for you. If your business is doing good, there is no COVID then, right? What I mean, you understand what I'm trying to
Correct.
convey.
Correct.
So, from your perspective, what is the kind of post-COVID scenario you are visualizing?
So I think so. If business life was normal, we were going on a particular,
Hmm.
direction, and COVID has put a tangent into it, and we have gone into a different spin.
All right.
Uh, uh, you know, Today, if I was to do an analyst day, right, I would want analysts from different countries or different places. It's a
Mhm.
physical event, it's a 4 month planning process, and you would want people to show up in Boston, and there's a whole process. I don't think so. Anybody is going to do a physical analyst day
No.
3 years from now.
Wow.
So that's not going to happen. And so acceptance of these kind of virtual events which can be done.
Hmm.
The fact is that now you're not limited by physical people coming over there. I can get tapped far more. You would probably expect 60, 80 analysts or 110 analysts showing up, but if you do it virtually, and you do it in a smart, organized way, you can probably get up almost 300 analysts on an analyst day. But mistake people do is, okay, I will hold the same analyst day. It's a whole 1 day program. That ain't going to work. So you have to evolve that. If somebody is at home, is going to be multitasking. So can I build it in smaller module? So one needs to innovate and look at. So there are things which are going to move onto online social, which were hard to pull off earlier, and I think that is going to accelerate. But there are things which will, which that we are social animals. We need that wine and cheese events to happen, which we all miss. I would see a lot of outdoor activities and outdoor post-COVID, marketing initiatives coming up, and I look forward to those days.
All right. One thing very.
I can give you, Sanjay, some examples of innovative work that happened, right? Today, we inaugurated our EV lab in the
Hmm.
month of August.
Okay.
I would have never thought that I can have a client sitting up in Michigan
Hmm.
using an IoT device designed by my engineer.
Hmm.
On a click of a button, is able to go to a lab and able to do a ribbon cutting, a physical ribbon being cutting. It's not a graphic interface, actual, because it's got an IoT device. The ribbon gets cut. He presses a button. Another customer in Germany presses a button. A lamp, and then we are able to take my customer not into another, virtual world. He's able to see my real lab, and I'm able to walk him through and show him through, because that real experience of going into the real world is what we miss. And
Hmm.
that interaction, etches into our customer. So what used to happen, like we used to have in a design facility in India, probably 7, 8 visits happen in a day. Now I am able to take them from any part of the world into my real world. I'm able to do 10, 15, 4 times uh, more than it. So it's all about, innovating and taking it to the next level is what is critical. And how do you do it and meticulously
Hmm.
take it to the next level of evolution? So I don't need to wait for clients to come to India or Israel. I can push the agenda, the buying cycle with a different kind of experience. Eventually it's the user experience, but you need to still provide interfaces where we are able to meet face to face.
Absolutely, Samir. I mean, more or less, people have been rewired themselves for this situation. I mean, as you give a very nice example of ribbon cutting, remotely using a IoT device. And was it the sales engine? I mean, the technical person giving the demonstration, or was it? It
No,
was
no.
a.
So the interesting part was, and that's where the marketers make mistakes. So what happens is, we said, okay, call a AV company who will have. An AV
Hmm.
company basically is trying to sell their Zoom equipment and, electronic. They've got some graphic interface made. And as a marketer, we said, okay, let's think back. What's our core strength? Our core strength is engineering.
Mhm.
Then the question was, and then you question, we all have mental fatigue. I don't want to go into another, nicely graphic interlace, you have 3 screens and stuff like that. And which is, everybody knows it's it's virtual world. You want to go into the real world. Okay, then how do you do about it? And then we said, can we do this real? And we just asked one of my fresh engineers, was 4 months into the system, was able to put that together with it was a simple app-based thing. He put a motor over there with a Raspberry chip, and you put the motor, pulls the thing. So, and to the client, it was it's not only the EV technology, but saying that he was more excited that he could do a ribbon cutting sitting remotely, and he could see it live come out, and so the core message is, here is a set of engineers who think differently. And I think that message was given by not doing the traditional way. And I think I would challenge marketers to go back to the basics. Just don't get carried away by technology, and do what your vendor or somebody else is trying to push down your throat.
Okay, you said what I sensed from this conversation is that the biggest thing is the imagination and thinking differently, which you did in many occasions. Now,
Absolutely.
the last question comes here related to this is that this is one trait that a CM marketing leader or CMO need to have put in his thinking brain. What else, or what kind of advice that you have to the peers or the budding marketeers or the CMOs?
So I think it's pretty simple. You need to be authentic. If you try to be somebody else, you will not succeed. So be authentic. You should be able to reflect at yourself and your organization what your core strengths are. So amplify those things which are your weakness, complemented with the team or people which can complement those weaknesses. And, I think that is what I will give advice to people, because you can, a buyer or a customer or an individual is smart enough to sense when you're not authentic. You can fool them in one meeting or for a month or for a quarter. But if you're looking for long-term standing relationship and partnership, it'll catch up with you sooner or later.
All
so
right,
being authentic is what I would say, and play on the strengths what you have, build on those, amplify bigger.
All right, Mr. Samir Bagga, thank you very much for taking out time speaking to CMOTV.live. Definitely, I enjoyed this conversation. I hope that we talk more on this on different occasions, on different conditions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sanjay, for having me.
Pleasure.
And stay safe. Bye.
You too, stay safe.